this is a bit of a brief video because I'm a cretin, and it's now...
You're a cretin.
I am a cretin. It's August now. And in April, I got through luck, really. Got in touch with someone to do an interview. So the background is it's George Fatman Sanger, who did all of the music for Seventh Guest. And Seventh Guest is, as the Persians say, a good game.
I do like that game.
Yeah.
I think I only played it through you introducing it to me when we started going out.
Yeah. Oh, I know everyone knows we're a couple. Spoiler alert.
No, when we started going out, just down the shops and stuff.
When you used to knock for me.
When I used to call for you, remember?
So we played. I bought it through Steam because I originally played it on the Philips CDI at a friend's house. His name was Brett, so Brit and Brett. Wow.
We've got it on PC somewhere, a PC disc, haven't we?
We've got it on the 3DO. I think it's 3DO. It's just over there.
And we don't have the 3DO. That is the one we bought online and thinking it was a book.
Yeah, they said it was a novel, the Seventh Guest novel, which is crap, by the way. And it turned up and it was Seventh Guest on the 3DO, which is amazing.
But we've since bought the novel, haven't we?
Yeah, I bought the novel after it because that turned up and I was disappointed that it was a 3DO game and not the novel. And then I read the novel and it was not very good. And then I've got it on PC anyway. On disc, like an old-fashioned CDs.
Oh, you have to explain to me.
I know.
I'm young, but 21.
CDs were like records, but worth nothing. So yeah, big fans of the Seventh Guest. We played through it a couple of times, not through it the whole thing, but just dabbling for like puzzles every now and again.
I'd say like once every 4 years or something like that.
We'll just chuck it on and kind of do a few puzzles because it's amazing.
We did in the old flat, didn't we? I think I remember being at the kitchen. It was Christmas time. And I remember saying to you about the Seventh Guest, and I remember the music was in my head, so we listened to Spotify and the Seventh Guest music, which is awesome, which is where obviously he comes in. But I remember just loving it when you showed me. I thought it was so cool. But when we played it, it was so slow on the PC. Yes,
it was before I had it on Steam. So I on a modern PC, I was trying to get this game from 1993 working. It was a nightmare. Speaking of the music, which is the focus of this video, the music is amazing because it sort of flits between this kind of like sort of zany circus music to almost chamber music and then ambient stuff and like weird piano runs. And it's really eclectic, and it's on Spotify actually under I think it's called Team Fat is the name of his band, and it's 7/11, which is the music from Seventh Guest and 11th Hour. And the best thing about 11th Hour is the music because the game isn't that
really
much.
Cool.
So I was lucky enough to get hold of George Sanger a few months ago, and he offered to do an interview, which is amazing. And I sent him the questions I had for him, and he amazingly came back and just said, I've recorded like the audio of them and sent them to me through Dropbox. So I transcribed the file down and put it on Games Freezer, the website I do reviews for, and then I forgot about it. Because I'm thick. And I was in work today and I thought, I never uploaded that. Like, there are so many fans that would want to see this or hear about it.
And, like, it's not like an everyday occurrence, is it? You don't speak to him, what a cool guy.
Yeah, some sort of like...
And you got to interview him, that's amazing.
Yeah, and he was just, he is so cool. And I'll put obviously this is just a little intro before the audio comes in with the interview, but he's so infectious with he's so kind of hips deep into what he does. And if you listen to the interview, all the way through, he keeps on kind of referencing these games, like he's done work on Wing Commander and one of them. It sounds like a kids game, a DVD which I bought.
Oh, I've got Patty
Saves the Zoo.
That's it.
And it's really cool because in one of the questions I said which sort of soundtrack that you've done are you most proud of in video games, expecting it to pick something pretty seminal. And it was Pat Saves the Zoo, because he was just like, the band really came together, and it was amazing that he just completely approaches it as kind of, as a musician and a creative entity, as opposed to like, that game was massive, so that's the best.
And obviously you bought it straight away.
I bought it pretty fast. So yeah, it's a really, really cool interview. I was lucky to do it, and I'm sorry that it's taken this long to upload it because I am thick.
But we're all friends and we're here now, that's the main thing.
I know, yes. No more thickness from me.
You're so hard on yourself.
So, anyway, hope you enjoy.
Hey, Britt, it's George Sanger, the Fatman, on April 5th, 2019. Answering your questions. Will there be a vinyl release of 7-Eleven? I will put you on pause and send that as a question to my record company, Materia Collective. Stand by, going on pause. Okay, I just asked him because I don't know. It says here, I was introduced to you through your work with the seminal PC classic, Seventh Guest. The music is so wonderfully eclectic, shifting from lounge jazz to ambient horror, and even spiraling whimsical circus themes. What are your lasting memories of this time, and were there any specific influences during this period? Well, my lasting memories are always to be mistrusted. I remember it one way, and other people remember it another way. I had just given a talk at the Game Developer Conference called Music, Art, and the Blue Sword of Grafalneblart. And it was a pretty big hit, although the CGDC, Computer Game Developer Conference, was very small at that time. My big memory is that I got a call from Graham Devine, who really treated me very well and was very respectful, and kind of couldn't believe that he was talking to the guy who did the music for Loom and Wing Commander. And so I felt very full of myself and thought I was the guy in charge and I was the big deal. Then he mailed me the video cassette of their materials to see if I wanted to work on The Seventh Guest. The video cassette contained that scene of climbing up the spiral stairs, and I just knew that this was going to be an amazing hit. So that's kind of my memory, is that visual of a videotape of going up the stairs and thinking, oh my gosh, I'm really on to something. I want to give this all I've got. So a lot of what I did was, jumping with both feet. That's an old joke, you don't test the ice with both feet. But that was what I did. A lot of the music that I did was trying to just put more and more in, because I had a great deal of faith that eventually I would, that this would establish me in a new art form if I could really do a good job and really kind of push the art form forward. So I was thinking of it more in terms of being like rock and roll, and that this was our Woodstock, and I really wasn't thinking of it in a business way. I was thinking this is a chance to be to earn my place in this world. So I put a lot into it that way. Influences, everything that I ever listened to was an influence, and my routine for writing was that I would sort of dredge up not what was appropriate for Seventh Guest or a horror film. I would dredge up what are my favorite tunes in the world, what would I really like to listen to now. And that's why you hear the tune Ghost of Bo is like a Bo Diddley beat, because I always believe every band should have their Bo Diddley song. Bo Diddley is dunk, 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 dunk. So there was that. There are references to West Side Story. Ba-dum bum, ba-da-da-dum-dum, ba-dum bum, ba-da-da-bum. That's almost a direct lift. There was a Twilight Zone episode about a one-armed bandit, a slot machine, which went boom, boom, ba-dum, ba-dum, bum, ba-dum, ba-dum. It was like this vague memory in the back of my mind that there was, this tune like that. There was no YouTube, so I couldn't really look it up. But I had this vague memory that there was a melody that went like that, and I came a little bit dangerously close to it. But you'll hear the bass playing boom, 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 boom. I mean, actually, all the Twilight Zone one was just like ding, ka-ding, dee-ding, ding, ka-ding, dee-ding. So, just a couple of notes, but I turned it into a longer thing. Hopefully I'm forgiven for that. What else? I liked Tubular Bells, and I tried to sound like that. That was the theme from The Exorcist. So you'll hear the song Rain kind of sounds like that. I was instructed in 11th Hour to sound a little bit like Danny Elfman. So actually, I just had a Guinness with Graham Devine last month, and he reminded me that the first two tunes that I turned in, that they asked me for Danny Elfman. I got all haughty and said, well, if you want Danny Elfman, you should hire Danny Elfman. Like a snot. And then I wrote, I think it's called All the Guests. So that was trying to be like Beetlejuice, or the kind of things that Danny Elfman was doing around then, the really quirky, awkward things. And then the other one I wrote was the main theme, actually the intro. Whoomp, ba, ba, so I don't know what that was influenced by. That was just really just from the heart. And also I was inspired just by playing around on the new instrument that I'd gotten, the Roland Sound Canvas. Let's see. Well, that should be enough for now. If I think of something else, I will add it, maybe. But there's a bunch of stuff like that. A lot of that kind of stuff. Now let's see. Looking at your discography. Question 2. Looking at your discography, you've worked on a lot of soundtracks over the years. Are there any that stand out to you as ones that you're particularly proud of, or you feel specifically represent you and your approach? Yeah, Putt Putt Saves the Zoo really represented the team approach. Having Team Fat all working on different parts of that. I'm very proud of it. And if you want to really tune into that, look for Curator. In fact, I think if you Google look for Curator, that's the best way. But there's like a Curator music, Curator Putt Putt, Google that. There's a friend who is, let's say, Timothy Knox, who is going to be releasing a bunch of the old music from that game and other games like it, Freddy Fish and Pajama Sam 3. The real joy of those games was that it really felt as much as possible like we were implementing everything we'd learned from studying the Beatles. So you have Dave Govett playing up his orchestral approach. He was the main composer on Wing Commander. You had Kevin Phelan doing sort of slide guitar and very folksy things for the tundra, the grasslands, and things like that. Joe McDermott, children's music wizard. He was more the Zombies Ate My Neighbors main composer, and but a very capable, a wide-ranging musician, and he did a lot of the sort of African things. And I kind of tied it all together with the Welcome to the Zoo song, and kind of cracking the whip and staying in touch with the client. So I sort of produced that one. So that really felt good, and I'm very proud of that one. Can you give an example of your creative process, as in perhaps the instruments/collaborators that you prefer to work with the most, and how you build upon an idea or how you decide on what each project requires? Well, I've heard some really great composers being interviewed on this topic, and I completely agree with this idea that when you start a project and you look at the creative draft and you look at the blank paper and you look at your empty computer, then there comes this moment where you go, I don't know how to do this. Here, I'm going to turn the recorder around, maybe get a better sound. Where you go, I don't know how to do this, actually. How do you score a game? This is impossible. I don't know what I'm doing. And when you have that feeling, then that's the right feeling to have. So you're doing it right. Oh, look, here's some soundproof. This will make it sound even better. All right. See, I put the recorder up on a piece of soundproof, and I bet it sounds a lot better now. Every project needs to be approached on its own terms, fresh from the beginning. You need to kind of dip into your templates a little bit, but not too much. So right now I'm working on Oddworld, Soulstorm. Oh, look, here. What can we look out for next? That's the next question. I'm skipping ahead. Forget I said that. So when I was in Austin, I used to bring in like the best musicians that I could find. And I had access to all the Western swing musicians. I really loved working with Floyd Domino on keyboard. And he is actually the guy around whom they wrote the musical score to Best Little Whorehouse in Texas. When that was written, they did it with Floyd Domino's style in mind. And then he eventually got to play piano in the pit on Broadway. So that must have been a crazy gig for him, playing a score that was written around his style. But Floyd is just a genius. So when you hear really nice keyboard playing on my works, it's almost always Floyd Domino. And then one of my secret weapons was John Ely on pedal steel. So you'll hear him on Freddie Fish. You'll hear him on The Seventh Guest. Why pedal steel on those? Because he's a great musician, that's why. And then as much as possible, I would have Team Fat play. Maybe not the strongest players, but I wanted to build a sonic identity. But that's all in the past. What I try to do is get into the game developer's head stylistically. I mean, there's two things you have to do when you're doing game audio, and one of them is, gameplay. That's three of them. But if we're just talking about the other thing, setting the mood, branding it, the intent, the immersion, then I usually fall back to thinking of this as a movie, and I picture the biggest, most immersive movie version of what the game is going to be. And that way I am taken out of the driver's seat and I am swept away by my imagination, and I just hear some kind of a style, some kind of a sound. That's my one formula that seldom fails. Whatever it is that I hear in my imagination, I usually get a little bit of a melody, a little bit of a sense of orchestration, a sense of tension. I can't really hear a lot of notes in a chord at once in my head, but I can hear a sense of tension. And that's a lot of how I wrote that theme to The Seventh Guest, too. You picture this house on a hill, and, what few notes are you going to hear that's going to be a theme that's going to really draw you into a movie that you're about to see. And let's see. And what can we look out for next from you and Team Fat? I am working on the new Oddworld, which is called Soulstorm. So this is the follow-up to Abe's Odyssey and Exodus and New and Tasty. And it's going to be big. It's a big project. So you can look that up on your internet. But I am just now looking at what they've got so far and putting myself into that giant mental movie and trying not to let down the fans of Abe. I've run into so many people who will say, well, you're working on that? I grew up on Oddworld. There are people who have tattoos of this. So I really want to help these guys. Well, I want to help them build a world that holds up not just to fans' expectations, but that goes beyond that. A big, dark, but hopeful world. That's the weirdness about Abe, is that his world is very, 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 very dark. He's trying to avoid being turned into hamburger, essentially, a meat pop, a meat sickle. Forget I said that. Don't say meat sickle. That has baggage. To be turned into food. And so trying to avoid that, he finds himself roped into being sort of a messiah, helping set people free, other muds, they're called Madakans. And in the process, he breaks a lot of things, and in the process, he brings down the factory, and in the process, he brings down his boss, and his boss gets in trouble, and his boss gets in trouble, and his boss gets in trouble, and how much of the evil system that was turning the little muds into slaves and food, how much of that system is going to crumble? We will see. So how do you put that dark hopefulness into music? We will see. Thank you for asking these questions. Thank you for caring. You are awesome, and enjoy translating this. Bye.